Hello, beautiful people. Oh, welcome to Drawing Down the Dragon. I'm Snappy, and thank you for joining me for our evening adoration to the Muses. And let us light our candles and begin our rites. All right, hail Hestia. And we gather with the sunset to cry out in loving adoration to the great mother, the twins, and the muses, the one duality in generation. And we ask the muses to sing in us the songs of inspiration, to guide us in our daily wanderings, and to teach us to listen and perceive with reasoned clarity. Thank you all for joining me on such a beautiful, beautiful, lovely evening. Yeah, a new song. I wanted something a little bit longer. I really enjoy this composer, Carlos Siaxis. I'm so bad with the Spanish, but really incredible composer, and that was his sonata in G minor, I believe. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful music. So I'm glad you noticed the new song. It's so fun. But yeah, and let us give a shout out to our chat. Good to see you, Gandhi. Much love. Veldane, great to see you. Much love. Christy, much love. Kat the Taurus, much love. Metal Chaos, much love. Good to see you. Great. All right. So let's begin this evening by discussing the astrology. Oh, Tyrant, good to see you. Okay, we are now under the moon in Cancer. And the moon in Cancer is watery, wild energy, right? It's an emotional roller coaster type energy. It puts us all into that protective mode to care about that which we hold dearest the most, to really be in that energy of connected to our family and in that protective mode, right? But this is also really intense energy, right? Everything can be a perceived attack or slight. Everything gets dialed up under this energy of Cancer, right? So it's really important to try and move with the flow of this energy and not get too caught up in things of a negative nature. Instead, use it to connect to your most beloved, most intimate partners and friends and family. You know, this is an energy when you can really learn about yourself and others and see where you can grow together and where you flow together. Really, really beautiful energy in the right way. We just have to write it, right? Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. All right. Now let's take a moment and discuss our title. Whisper, spring wind, softly singing, whisper in my ear. This line comes to us from a beautiful poem by, what's the guy's name here? By Adam Lindsay Gordon. By Adam Lindsay Gordon. This is called Finis Extoptatus, a metaphysical song. Sorry, my Latin is not very good, if you hadn't guessed. But this is a really beautiful poem. This is a newer poet to me, one I just recently discovered through the Muse. So, a lot of beautiful stuff here. I'm excited to dig in with you guys. And I think you will enjoy the ones that I've chosen, but barely scratching the surface as I've just learned about this wonderful poet, Adam Lindsay Gordon. And he was an Australian, a British Australian poet. Really interesting. Okay, so let's read. Finis Extoptatus. All right, begins with a quote. There's something in this world of myths shall be unriddled by and by. Tennyson. Right. Boot and saddle, see the slanting rays begin to fall, flinging lights and colors flaunting through the shadows tall. Onward, onward must we travel. When will come the goal? Riddle I may not unravel, cease to vex my soul. Harshly break those pearls of laughter from the jays aloft. Can we guess what they cry after we have heard them oft? Perhaps some strain of rude thanksgiving mingles in their song. Are they glad that they are living? Are they right or wrong? Right, 'tis joy that makes them call so. Why should they be sad? Certes, we are living also. Shall we not be glad? Onward, onward must we travel. Is the goal more near? Riddle we may not unravel. Why so dark and drear? Yon small bird, his hymn outpouring on the branch close by, recks not for the kestrel soaring in the nether sky, though the hawk with wings extended poises overhead, motionless as though suspended by a viewless thread. See, he stoops, nay, shooting forward with the arrow's flight, swift and straight, away to norward, sails he out of sight. Onward, onward, thus we travel, comes the goal more nigh. Riddle we may not unravel, who shall make reply? Ha! Friend of frame, saint or sinner, tell me if you can, though we may not judge the inner but the outer man, yet by girth of broadcloth ample, and by cheeks that shine, surely you set no example in the fasting line. Could you, like yon bird, discovering fate is close at hand, as the kestrel o'er him hovering, still as he did stand, trusting grandly, singing gaily, confident and calm, not one false note in your daily hymn or weekly psalm? Oft your oily tones are heard in chapel where you preach this, the everlasting burden of the tale you teach. We are dead of our sins, are deadly. You alone are healed. 'Twas not thus their gospel readly, saints and martyrs sealed. You had seemed more like a martyr than you seemed to us, to the beasts that caught a Tartar once at Ephesus, rather than the stout apostle of the Gentiles who, pagan like, could cuff and wrestle, they'd have chosen you. Yet I ween on such occasion your dissenting voice would have been in mild persuasion raised against their choice. Man of peace and man of merit, pompous, wise, and grave, a frame, is it flesh or spirit you strive most to save? Vain is half the care and caution o'er the earthly shell. We can neither baffle nor shun dark plumed Azrael. Onward, onward, still we wander, nearer draws the goal. Half the riddles read we ponder, vainly on the whole. Eastward, in the pink horizon, fleecy hillocks shame. This dim range dull earth lies on, tinged with rosy flame. Westward, as a stricken giant stoops his bloody crest, and though vanquished, frowns defiant, sinks the sun to rest. Distant, yet approaching quickly, from the shades that lurk, like a black pall gathers thickly, night when none may work. Soon our restless occupations shall have ceased to be. Units in God's vast creation, ciphers, what are we? Onward, onward, oh, faint hearted, nearer and more near, has the goal drawn since we started. Be of better cheer. Preacher, all forbearance ask, for all are worthless found. Man must I take from Man must I take man to task for faults while earth goes round. On this dank soil thistles muster, thorns are broadcast sown. Seek not figs where thistles cluster, grapes where thorns have grown. Sun and rain and dew from heaven, light and shade and air, heat and moisture freely given, thorns and thistles share. Vegetation rank and rotten feels the cheering ray, not uncared for, unforgotten, we too have our day. Unforgotten though we cumber, earth we work his will. Shall we sleep through night's long slumber, unforgotten still? Onward, onward, toiling ever, weary steps and slow, doubting oft, despairing never, to the goal we go. Hark, the bells on distant castle waft across the range, through the golden tufted wattle, music low and strange. Like the marriage peal of fairies comes the twinkling sound, or like chimes of sweet St. Mary's on far English ground. How my courser champs the snaffle, and with nostrils spread, snorts and scarcely seems to ruffle fern leaves with his tread. Cool and pleasant on his haunches blows the evening breeze through the overhanging branches of the wattle trees. Onward to the southern ocean glides the breath of spring. Onward with a dreary motion, I to glide and sing. Forward, forward still we wander, tinted hills that lie In the red horizon yonder is the goal so nigh. Whisper, spring wind softly singing, whisper in my ear. Respite and nepenthe bringing, can the goal be near? Laden with the dew of vespers from the fragrant sky, in my ear the wind that whispers seems to make reply. Question not, but live and labor till yon goal be won, helping every feeble neighbor, seeking help from none. Life is mostly froth and bubble. Two things stand like stone: kindness in another's trouble, courage in your own. Courage, comrades, this is certain, all is for the best. There are lights behind the curtain, Gentiles, let us rest. As the smoke wreck veers to seaward from the ancient clay, with its moral drifting leeward, ends the wanderer's lay. Beautiful, beautiful. Absolutely love it. Just such incredible imagery, and there's so much here for those with ears to hear. All right, wild stuff. Metaphysical song indeed. Hail the birds. All right. And the next one I'd like to read for you guys is called Wormwood and Nightshade. Wormwood and Nightshade. The troubles of life are many, the pleasures of life are few. When we sat in the sunlight, Annie, I dreamt that the skies were blue. When we sat in the sunlight, Annie, I dreamt that the earth was green. There is little color, if any, neath the sunlight now to be seen. Then the rays of the sunset glinted through the blackwood's emerald bough on an emerald sward rose tinted and spangled and gemmed, and now the rays of the sunset redden with a sullen and lurid frown from the skies that are dark and leaden to earth that is dusk and brown. To right and to left extended, the uplands are blank and drear, and their neutral tints are blended with the dead leaves, somber and sere. The cold gray mist from the still side of the lake creeps sluggish and sure. Bare and bleak is the hillside, barren and bleak the moor. Bright hues and shapes intertwisted, fair forms and rich colors now. They have flown if e'er they existed. It matters not why or how. It matters not where or when, dear. They have flown the blue and the green. I thought on what might be then, dear. Now I think on what might have been. What might have been? Words of folly. What might be? Speech for a fool. With mistletoe round me and holly, scarlet and green at Yule. With the elm in the place of the wattle, and in lieu of the gum, the oak. Years back I believed a little, and as I believed, I spoke. Have I done with those childish fancies? They suited the days gone by, when I pulled the poppies and pansies, when I hunted the butterfly. With one who has long been sleeping, a stranger to doubts and cares, and to sowing that ends in reaping thistles and thorns and tares. What might be? The dreams were scattered, as chaff is tossed by the wind, the faith that has been rudely shattered, that listened with credence blind. Things were to have been, and therefore they were, and they are to be, and will be. We must prepare for the doom we are bound to dree. Ah me, we believe in evil where once we believed in good. The world, the flesh, and the devil are easily understood. The world, the flesh, and the devil, their traces on earth are plain. Must they always riot and revel while footprints of man remain? Talk about better and wiser. Wiser and worse are one. The sophist is the despiser of all things under the sun. Is nothing real but confusion? Is nothing certain but death? Is nothing fair save illusion? Is nothing good that has breath? Some sprite, malignant and elfish, seems present whispering close. All motives of life are selfish, all instincts of life are gross. And the song that the poet fashions in the lovebird's musical strain are jumbles of animal passions refined by animal pain. The restless throbbings and burnings that hope unsatisfied brings, the weary longings and yearnings for the mystical better things, are the sands on which is reflected the pitiless moving lake, where the wanderer falls dejected by a thirst he can never slake. A child blows bubbles that glitter. He snatches them, they disperse. Yet childhood's folly is better, and manhood's folly is worse. Guilt baubles we grasp at blindly, would turn in our hands to dross. 'Tis a fate less cruel than kindly, denies the gain and the loss. And as one who pursues a shadow, as one who hunts in a dream, as the child who crosses the meadow, enticed by the rainbow's gleam, I, knowing the course was foolish, and guessing the goal was plain, stupid and stubborn and mulish, followed and follow again. The sun over Gideon halted, holding aloof the night, when Joshua's arm was exalted, yet never retraced his flight. Nor will he turn back, nor can he. He chases the future fast. The future is blank, O Annie. I fain would recall the past. There are others toiling and straining, neath burdens graver than mine. They are weary yet uncomplaining. I know it, yet I repine. I know it, how time will ravage, how time will level, and yet I long with the longing savage. I regret with a fierce regret. You are no false ideal. Something is left of you, present, perceptible, real, palpable, tangible, true. One shred of your broken necklace, one tress of your pale golden hair, and a heart so utterly reckless that the thirst of it would gladly dare. There is little pleasure, if any, in waking the past anew. My days and nights have been many, lost chances many I rue. My days and nights have been many. Now I pray that they be few. When I think on the hillside, Annie, where I dreamt that the skies were blue. Wow. Hail generation, right? Don't fall sometimes, this is such a wild poem. Don't fall for the false stories of spirits. Don't become dejected with reality. Don't deny yourself the pleasure and the toil. Go through life and generation. That is the secret, right? What a wild, beautiful little poem here. Cute and simple, but so full of wisdom. Love it. All right, let's continue. The next poem I'd like to read for you is called Visions in the Smoke. And this will be the last one. Yeah, this will be the last one. All right, by Adam Lindsay Gordon. Rest and be thankful on the verge of the cliff, rugged and gray, but whose granite base the breakers surge and shiver their frothy spray. Outstretched, I gaze on the eddying wreath that gathers and flits away, with the surf beneath and between my teeth the stem of the ancient clay. With the anodyne cloud on my listless eyes, with its spell on my dreamy brain, as I watch the circling vapors rise from the brown bowl up to the sullen skies. My vision becomes more plain, till a dim kaleidoscope succeeds through the smoke rack, drifting and veering like ghostly riders on phantom steeds to a shadowy goal careering. In their own generation, the wise may sneer, they hold our sports in derision. Perchance to sophist or sage or seer were allotted a graver vision. Yet if man of all the Creator planned, his noblest work is reckoned, of the works of his hand, by sea or by land, the horse may at least rank second. Did they quail, those steeds of the squadron's light? Did they flinch from the battle's roar when they burst on the black guns of Muscovite by the echoing Black Sea shore? On, on, to the cannon's mouth they stride, with never a swerve nor a shy. Oh, the minutes of yonder maddening ride, long years of pleasure outvie. No slave, but a comrade staunch in this is the horse where he takes his share, not in peril alone, but in feverish bliss and in longing to do and dare. Where bullets whistle and round shot whiz, hoofs trample and blades flash bare. God send me an ending as fair as his who died in his stirrups there. The wind has slumbered throughout the day, Now a fitful gust brings over the bay. My wandering thoughts no longer stray. I'll fix my overcoat buttons, secure my old hat as best I may, and a shocking bad one it is, by the way. Blow a denser cloud from my stunted clay, and then, friend Bell, as the Frenchmen say, well, go back again to our muttons. There's a lull in the tumult on yonder hill, and the clamor has grown less loud, though the babble of tongues is never still with the presence of such a crowd. The bell has rung, with the riders up, at the starting post they muster, the racers stripped for the Melbourne Cup, all gloss and polish and luster. And the course is seen with its emerald sheen by the bright spring tide renewed, like a ribbon of green stretched out between the ranks of the multitude. The flag is lowered, they're off, they come, the squadron is sweeping on. A sway in the crowd, a murmuring hum. They're here, they're past, they're gone. They came with the rush of southern surf on the bar of that stormy girt bay, and like muffled drums on the sounding turf, their hoof strokes echo away. The rose and black draws clear of the ruck, and the murmur swells to a roar as the brave old colors that never were struck are seen with the lead once more. Though the feathery ferns and grasses wave o'er the sod where lantern sleeps, through though the turf is green on fishermen's grave, the stable its prestige keeps. 6 lengths in front she scours along, she's bringing the field to trouble. She's tailing them off, she's running strong, she shakes her head and pulls double. Now minstrel falters and exile flags, the barb finds the pace too hot, and Tory boy loiters and playboy lags, and then bolt of Ben Bolt is shot. That she may never be caught this day is the worst that the public wish her. She won't be caught, she comes right away. Hooray for seagull and fisher. She strop falls back, though his reins are slack. Sultana begins to tire, and the top weight tells on the Sydney crack, that the pace of the Gippsland flyer. The rolls, as round the turn they sweep, just graze Tim Wafel's flanks. Like the hunted deer that flies through the sheep, he strides through beaten ranks. Daughter of Omen, prove your birth, the colt will take lots of choking. The hot breath steams at your saddle girth from his scarlet nostrils smoking. The shouts of the ring for a space subside and slackens the bookmarker's roar. Now Davies rally, now Carter ride, as man never rode before. When Sparrowhark's backers cease to cheer, when Yattendon's friends are dumb, when hushed is the clamor for volunteer, alone in the race they come. They're neck and neck, they're head and head, they're stroke for stroke in the running. The whale's bone whistles, the steel is red, no shirking as yet, nor shunning. One effort, seagull, the blood you boast, should struggle when the nerves are strained. With a rush on the post, by a neck at the most, the verdict for Tim is gained. Tim Whipple wins, his blood alone, the sinqua non for a flyer. The breed of his dame is a myth unknown, and we've doubts respecting his sire. Yet few, if any, those proud names are on the pages of peerage or stud, and those succian lurks no sinister bar, no taint of the base black blood. Ay, Shorthouse, laugh, laugh loud and long, for pedigree you're a striker. You may be right, I may be wrong, wise acres both is the liquor. Our common descent we may each recall to a lady of old caught tripping, the fair one in fig leaves who dead us all for a bite at a golden piping. When first on this rocky ledge I lay, there was scarce a ripple in yonder bay. The air was serenely still. Each column that sailed from my swarthy clay hung loitering long ere it passed away, though the skies were a tinge of leaden gray, and the atmosphere was chill. But the red sun sank to his evening shroud, where the western billows are rolled behind a curtain of sable cloud, with a fringe of scarlet and gold. There's a misty glare in the yellow moon, and the drift is scudding fast. There'll be storm and rattle and tempest soon, when the heavens are overcast. The neutral tint of the sullen sea is flecked with the snowy foam, and the distant gale sighs drearily as the wanderer sighs for his home. The white sea horses toss their manes on the bar of the southern reef, and the breakers moan, and by Jove it rains. I thought I should come to grief. Though it can't well damage my shabby hat, though my coat looks best when it's damp, since the shaking I got, no matter where at, I've mortal dread of the cramp. My matches are wet, my pipes put out, and the wind blows colder and stronger. I'll be stiff and sore, and sorry, no doubt, if I lie here any longer. What a wild image, right? What a wild image. I just had such fun reading this, right? You get a clear vision of this wild character, right? A guy getting stoned on ether and then going to the racetrack and then getting caught out in the rain. Just wild poetry. I really enjoy this character. Adam Lindsay Gordon. I'm going to have to read more. All right. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed those. Lots of fun. All right. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Okay. And now we will hop over to our divination proper. All right. And as always, we begin with our Ganapati Oracle. All right. And we invoke Ganapati Ganesh, the divine child, the Lord of beginnings, the guardian of the threshold, and the master of the spirits, the Ganas. And we ask Lord Ganapati to send us an inspiring message through the cards and to help ensure that our words are heard by those who need to hear them. So, Lord Ganapati, what is today's empowering and inspiring message? Let's take a look. Spiritual quest. Spiritual quest. Wow, powerful stuff, right? We have the 40 taking us to the root energy of the 4. And the 4 is the foundation, the base, our core sense of self, the power upon which we build and structure our life, right? That which stays with us through the cycles, right? And what is our foundation but the spiritual quest, that pursuit of true self knowledge, wisdom, right? To know thyself is the whole of the path, right? And that is the whole of the structure upon which we are striving, right? As long as we remember that goal and we are in that ever striving for self knowledge, right? Through the exploration of experience, then we are on the right path and we are in our power base, our foundational energy. Beautiful stuff. Thank you, Lord Ganapati, right? Recognize and remember, right? Do that hard work. Continue to pursue wisdom. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right. Let's now go to the fairy guardian oracle. The fairy guardian oracle. And we invoke the spirits, the fairies, the daimones, the manis, the lares, the penates, the genii, the seleni, the satyrs, the dryads, the naiads, the oreads, the nymphes, the nereids, the curids, the corybontes, the elves, the gnomes, all the spirits of mind, the spirits of place, the spirits of the ancestors, the spirits of the dead, the spirits of the elements, spirits of the crossroads. We invite them all in and ask them to watch over us and shoot out some cards at us. So here we go. What is our card today? Ha! Believe in magic. Now that's a fun one to have shoot out. Love it. Hail the fairy spirits. How fun. Open your eyes and see the magic that's all around in nature. The fairy of the northern lights says, you are part of nature, and so you are magical too. Right? And nature is everything, right? Everything is alive and enthused with the spirit of being. Everything has that true empowered life force, potential, and growth, right? It's present in everything. We just have to be open and connected, right? Believe in this true empowered energy of life, that energy that strives to move beyond its limits, to evolve and to grow, right? Recognize the program, recognize that we are in this experiential machine, ever generating, ever pursuing knowledge, right? Powerful, powerful stuff. It's all magic and it's all in the stories we tell, right? Beautiful stuff. Thank you so much, fairy spirits. What a powerful message And also recognize the power of belief, right? The key is belief and weaponizing belief, utilizing this power to enthuse yourself and to transform your reality, to invoke the energy of focus, right? To focus is true power, right? This is the magic of Hestia, right? For Vesta, she is that foci, the center, the middle, the heart, the fire, the spark at the center that we are focused on and going towards, ever chasing after that light, right? And we are empowered in that connection to the star. Beautiful stuff. All right. And we continue. We're now going to begin our tarot proper. But before I do, please give me a like and a subscribe. It really does make a big difference. It boosts everything in the algorithm. And I would truly, truly love and appreciate it. And if anyone is interested in a 3-card reading, please send me a super chat, a super thanks, or sign up for a YouTube membership. And today we're going to begin with the most classic tarot of all time, and that is The Rider Smith Waite by Pamela Coleman Smith and A.E. Waite. And I just like this deck. You know, this was the deck that I first got into with the tarot. Its images are just so iconic and burned into my brain. This and the Thoth will always hold a special place for me. Powerful stuff. So let's see. What is the message? All right, we invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon us, to empower us throughout our day, and to help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. Apollo and the Muses, what is the inspiring message? All right, let's see. All right, and our center card is the Eight of Swords. Interference, interference, intense energy interference, right? And the interference is this energy of, right, we finding ourselves caught in a repeating cycle, right? We're doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. We are impeding ourselves from action, right? This is true depression energy, energy that says I can't and I won't, and then I don't. I don't get out of bed. I don't do anything. I don't try. We're bound by fear, right? And we are refusing to engage. Let's see here. And often, right, when we get this energy of the eights, when you're in this kind of heavy, repetitive energy, this takes something, you got to do something to break out of this energy. You can't, you're something radical has to happen, you know, if you don't want to fall into cruelty and greater fear. Usually this energy takes you going to the root, going into the earth, empowering yourself in true action. Let's see here. We find ourselves showing up as the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords, right? Knight of Swords is such intense, radical, wild, intense energy, right? Like all of the princes, they represent Osiris energy, teenage energy, right? This is where we're caught up in our imagination. We're in that exploration mode where we're trying to understand reality and the earth. It's a beautiful energy, but it's an energy that you're meant to go through, and then you come to a profound commitment. You come to a profound recognition. You see yourself in the mirror, you recognize what you want, and you take action. You move out of that prince energy and you become a queen or a king, right? And here we're seeing that prince energy in the air. This is the air of air, right? All of the princes struggle with being caught up in their imagination. Now, this prince is doubly so, right? This energy is usually really frustrating because with all of this fear and all of this overthinking, this is energy that lashes out at the world around it, right? What we see with this youth is that they have gotten so caught up in their own logic and their own ideas and their own imagination that they are no longer perceive the world as it is. They're no longer able to connect to others. And that leads to this deep frustration with the self, frustration with the world. And they find themselves lashing out at the world and at the self in fear and in cruelty, right? Really, really intense energy, really intense energy. But there's also profound wisdom here. This youth does have this ability for incredible imagination, incredible logic. He just needs to step outside of himself, apply that critical eye to his own life, recognize, right? And then that prince will come out of the air. But there needs to be that recognition. And what we're seeing here is this prince is struggling in this energy of inaction, of being bound in fear, of just, imagining monsters and doing nothing. Wow. Let's see. Look at this. Now that's wild. That's powerful, right? The sun, the 19. This is Plutus. This is the energy of our dreams being made tangible upon the earth. New life and generation, the rising of the new dawn, right? The sun is reborn. Osiris is reborn, right? Wild, wild energy. Horus the child. Incredible, incredible energy. This is the nine on a transcendent level, right? The nine is that power of infinity. And here we see it on another level of infinity, right? In that true generative power. Really, really wild stuff. When we see the sun, we recognize that we are in that new beginning, this true empowered moment where we are coming to a realization and to a fulfillment. And look, the only thing that is preventing that night from true loving fulfillment, from having their dreams made real, right? What the prince is all about, making their dreams real. This, especially this prince who's so caught up in the dream. They're on the cusp of achieving the very thing they want, and they're not doing anything about it. Wow. Let's see. The Five of Cups. Five of Cups. What is a lot of this interfering energy about? Disappointment. Disappointment. The struggle to come into loving connection in true harmony, right? The Five of Cups is disappointment. This is us trying to build upon the Four, the luxury, to really connect to others, to really be in true loving connection, to have friends and companions, to be in true connection. But in order to get that connection, to be in pleasure, right? The Six of Cups, you got to pass through the five first. You have to put yourself out there and you have to struggle. When we see this energy, it's painful because often, we're also in this just the self-loathing energy. We see the other side, right? We recognize what others have and that we don't have. Why can't I find someone who comes into reciprocal flow with me? And there's all this fear, of putting yourself out there. But there's nothing harder than connecting with other people, right? People are wild. They can be the best thing or they can be the worst thing, you know? So this is intense, right? We're seeing this night really struggling to come into connection and to break out of this interfering energy, right? Like they want love, but they won't put their cup out there, right? So they sit in this disappointment of their own making, right? And they're on the cusp of achieving their dreams if they would just stop getting in their way and they would pursue love, would pursue connections, right? Oh, and look at that. That's beautiful, but intense. The Ten of Swords. Ten of Swords. Remember, I said the knight needs to learn to see outside of himself? That's what this card is. Exactly. This is the ending of the cycle in the air. The Ten of Swords ruin. But more than this is the recognition I have done this to myself. I have led to my own ruin. My own thoughts, my own fears have become manifested, and I see it and I see it with reasoned clarity, right? It's a painful card, but it is a true empowered recognition. And now you can take that step and go back to the root of the element. You understand what happened. And now you can re-begin the pursuit of wisdom with experiential reason, right? You now understand yourself better. You recognize where you fell short. You don't have to stay in that failure. You can go back and try again. And we have this ability to really empower ourselves now. We know that it was ourselves getting in our own way, right? And this energy of the five, you can always keep struggling to come into connection. And this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that night recognize, learn to step out of themselves and recognize that they have been the one interfering and preventing themselves. And this is a truly beautiful thing, right? They're closing that energy out and they're reapproaching this energy of pursuing connection and communication and understanding, but this time with reason, right? Without that fear. So often the air just turns into fear, right? We manifest our worst doubts. We assume the worst about the people around us, right? Let's see. Oh, and look at that. We have all this air, so of course we need Athena to show up. Themis, the power of justice, Libra herself, right? Come to balance the scales. And this is beautiful energy. This is beautiful energy, right? Libra seeks harmony. She calls us into balance, both internally and externally. Internally, we are called to balance our conscious and our unconscious mind, our masculine, our feminine, our human, and our animal, to really be centered within ourself, right? And then externally, she calls you to come into flow and harmony with the people around you, to recognize that everyone is a star. Everyone must be shining brightly. Everyone must be allowed to speak, right? And this energy of justice has that Saturnian edge. She ensures that people can speak, and she ensures that things are in harmony, even if it takes force, right? And that's what we're seeing here. We're facing our fears and we're doing something about it. We're recognizing the pain and the anger, and we're pursuing justice. And true justice comes from truth and reconciliation, right? That's what this energy is all about: truth and reconciliation, honesty and admitting, and then overcoming. And that's what we see in the 10: honesty, admitting, and overcoming. I did this, I acted this way, this is what happened. And now that I know it, I can avoid it, right? Wild stuff. And look, it's when we come into that truth and reconciliation, facing ourselves in the mirror, balance ourselves in harmony, that we come to our dreams and realizations, that we break free of that interfering energy, that we fulfill that pursuit of loving flow. Wow. Let's see. And look at that, the Page of Cups, the Page of Cups, right? We're seeing two U's here, right? The Page of Cups, though, where the knight is in that teenage energy, right? They have a core sense of self. Now it's about where does their vision take them? Now they got to construct the vision, recognize their desire. But for the page, it's different. The page is the child. The page, they're in the earth. They need to take the time to cultivate themselves in the earth, to really form that core sense of self. They need the time to grow up, to blossom, to learn, and to flourish, right? So this is interesting. We got two youth energies who are in this interference, both who need to come to self-realization, need to pass through the cycles and to grow, right? The Page of Cups here is beautiful because she is the princess, the page energy in its most innocent, right? This is the earth of water, the earth of water. And this energy, right, it comes to bring that true salvation. It comes to manifest real forgiveness, real loving connection and community. This is that beautiful child that just wants people to come into harmony, right? When we come cultivate the sun, what are we doing? We are coming to this child. You know, this is interesting energy. Often we find is that with the kings and the queens, they are most fulfilled when they are connected to the child, right? For the child represents the page, the princess, they represent literal children, the next generation, or empowered ideas or creations, things we have given birth to that must be nurtured and allowed to grow, right? Let's see what's going on here. Oh, and look at that, the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups. Wow. Interesting. There's so much impacting energy here. Like the eights are such heavy energy, right? It's where we are caught in the same actions and we're bound up and we're not changing. And with the Eight of Cups, this is indolence, right? We are manifesting love, we are calling people into us, and yet we are rejecting them, you know? This is we're seeing this prince, right? They're calling for love, they're calling for that connection to the child, but then when the child comes to offer their cup, they say no. That's such painful energy, the indolence, right? Because it's like you want love, but then you're afraid of what may happen. You're afraid of what, the person there. Yeah, you really are trying to get people to come in, and then when they come in, then you have all that anxiety. You're overwhelmed. Can you share your cup with everyone? Who's worth sharing with, right? Really, really wild energy. But right here we're seeing the knight struggling to come into flow, into harmony with the child. Wow. And this is about a severe judgment here. Yeah, look at this. This knight is really growing up. This is about the knight manifesting the sun and coming correct for the child, right? To protect and uplift the child, right? How does the knight fulfill itself? When it is in that true pursuit of uplifting the child, right? And to do that, what does the knight need to do? They need to be there for the child. They need to come into loving flow with them. They want this. They need to actually do it, not be preventing themselves in doubt. This indolent energy, it's not like the knight doesn't want to be in love with the child. He's just afraid of what that represents, afraid of the responsibility, and is unwilling to put in the energy that's needed, right? And the same thing here with the Eight of Swords, right? We're afraid that this is not going to work out. We're afraid. We're manifesting all of our worst anxieties, and it's preventing us from coming into contact, from really engaging that energy, right? But look, when we can go and we can really empower ourselves in the 10, we can face this judgment energy. That's when we manifest the sun. That's when we come to the page, right? When we truly balance ourselves. And the judgment, this is such powerful, powerful energy. The judgment is the ion, it is the 20, the final cycle in the tarot. This is the penultimate moment before self realization. This is the primal fire, right? When we face this energy, you are called to shed your ego, to set yourself ablaze, right? And look, we're throwing the ruin and the interference into the fires. We're getting out of the heights of the air. This is the night coming to account. Remember, I said, right? All of the nights, they're going to have to change. They're going to have to shed that skin. They're going to have to go through a true transformation, often representative of either the judgment or the death card, right? But this is what all of the knights got to do. That's how they become a king or a queen. And this is really powerful. This is what we're seeing. This knight is going to pass through the flames of judgment, come into true balance, break free of all of this fear, overthinking, and depression, get out of this, longing and just, you know, there's just so much, loathing and self deprecation here, right? I can't be in loving flow, right? I can't be connected to people, right? I won't and I can't. Everyone is out to get me, right? This is such victim energy. All of this is such victim energy. This knight has really isolated themselves in this victimhood. And the muse is telling you very clearly that this knight needs to take account and take charge, come into action. They want to manifest their dreams. Well, you're going to have to balance yourself and face judgment and stop being in this childlike nonsense. You don't have time for this shit anymore. You don't have time for this shit anymore. You got a responsibility, and it's time for you to take account. But look, if you do, this is a rebirthing moment. This is an empowering moment, right? You know, there's this deep reluctance here, but at the end of the day, if the knight passes through the flames, he's rewarded with the sun, the literal sun. But this is the thing. You got to be willing to face that judgment and get out of this nonsense. All right. That's the message. I hope that resonated with you guys. It certainly resonated with me. How fun. And thank you, Pamela Coleman Smith in A.E. Waite. And once again, if anyone would like me to pull them a couple cards, please send me a super chat, a super thanks, or sign up for a YouTube membership. Okay, beautiful. And let's see. Okay, where did I put my cup? All right, we're going to do another Saturn square reading here. Let's go to the Egyptian Tarot of the Lima by Oliver St. John. All right. And Apollo and the Muses, shine your light upon us, guide us throughout our days, and help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. So, Apollo and the Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message from the Egyptian Tarot of the Lima? Let's take a look. Oh, we got a card shooting out, and that's going to be our center. And it is Isis Urania. Oh, beautiful, 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 beautiful. The Empress, right? The Empress is such incredible energy, the divine feminine in her most natural and empowered energy, right? This is the energy of love and generation, of true connection. This is the most creative, artistic, empowered card in the deck, capable and able of doing anything. This is the card that manifests the infinite diversity, that makes love to all creation, right? Wondrous glory. This is the veil of reality, right? Truly powerful and wondrous energy. Wow. When we see that mother card, it calls us often to empower ourselves in that energy, to be in that truly creative and generative and nurturing energy. Let's see, where are we going? Wow. The Seven of Wands, Valor. The Seven of Wands is wild energy, intense energy, right? All of the sevens are so intense. You know, the seven is such a powerful energy and it comes in like multiple directions. This is good, bad, and everything in between. What this energy represents is when you were really shining bright, when you were really empowered in your will, the universe and people take notice. People want a peace, they come around you, all of this stuff and all of this intensity. And there's a need in this moment to stay true, to stay focused, to remember the energy that you were striving for. And there's this empowered cultivation connection here to that Empress energy. And I have a sense that we are being called to stay focused on connecting to this energy, of invoking this energy, right? Sometimes, this energy is telling you just stay true to yourself. Don't get caught up in other people's bull. Don't allow your energy to be redirected or taken, right? Powerful stuff. The Three of Cups. Wow, abundance. Look at that. That's beautiful, right? The Three of Cups, this is the three, the great mother energy in the water, right? And this is all about true expansive growth, coming into loving community and connection that is truly expanding in that generative flow, right? We're not just manifesting love, but manifesting community and friendship. This is really, really beautiful energy. And look, when we are staying true and we come into that mother energy, then we will be in that true generative power of the water. We will be manifesting all of these deep emotional connections. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Oh, thank you, Gandhi, for the donation. And I'll pull you a couple cards shortly. All right, let's see. And look, we got the Eight of Cups, indolence again. Indolence. Oof. Oof, 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 oof. The indolence is intense energy. We've been in that generative flow. We're shining bright, and all of this energy is now coming to a fore, right? The indolence is when all of these, we've called all of this connection, and now we're anxious and we're fearful, right? How do we connect to these people? How do we truly share, right? And there's a lot to this energy because the eight, it's all about learning to really recognize and be okay in yourself, right? You have to be able to connect to the people you can flow with and disconnect from the people you can't. And you have to have the strength of character to be able to go through those kind of rocky emotional connections. And the mother's telling you to be just in that loving, nurturing energy, right? It's worth it to connect to this energy and to get the good, beautiful people. It's worth going through the potential awkward connections because that's 99% of the time all it is, awkward connections, right? We want all this love. This is where our will is calling us. We're striving with all of this passion focused, right? We need to connect with this energy of the eight, not allow ourselves to be in that fearful mode, not allow ourselves to be in that doubtful mode, right? Let's see. Oh, the Nine of Swords, cruelty. Oof. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. We're in this deep, fearful energy about this. I have a sense, right, that there's been a lot of expectations placed upon. It's hard to be in that mother energy where you are nurturing community, right? What happens when there's all of this needy energy and you don't have enough time and love to give, right? What happens when people start demanding of you, right? And then you feel all that anxiety doubly so. Sometimes it can turn into that cruelty energy, right? You can see why this would lead to all this fear and anxiety, right? The cruelty energy is now, I'm so fearful and I'm so angry about this that now I'm starting to lash out, right? I'm lashing out at the self and I'm lashing out at others, right? In order to deal with this indolence energy, I'm pushing people away. I'm telling them to go away. I no longer want this love, even though the sad part of the eight is like you called these people here. They're here because you want it. And yet you're in that cruel energy where you're telling them to go away. You're on one hand, you're asking them to come in, and then on the next, you're telling them to go away. Right? Really, really intense energy here. And the nine is so deeply frustrating. But right, the interesting fact with the nine is that the nine, if we apply just a little more reason, we can close out the cycle and come to the 10, the ruin, right? The nine and the 10 are no different in terms of energy, only in terms of perspective. What we see with the 10 is that we've recognized that we are the problem. We no longer are lashing out at the self and at others, but we are understanding that we are not in a reasonable state, that we are manifesting our own fears, and we have brought ourselves to this place of ruin. And once you come to that recognition, then you can complete the cycle and return to the root of the element, right? Really begin that pursuit of understanding, but this time with reason and experience, you know. But this is painful, right? This is why we need to be in that valor energy. Let's see. Okay. The two of discs, harmonious change. Harmonious change. Yeah, this is heavy stuff, right? The two of discs, this is the nature of the earth. The nature of the earth, right? This is, you know, just how things are. Everything is in a state of flux. Nothing stands still. Everything dances, right? And all we can do in the face of change is adapt or maintain. It's all you can do, right? And this is really painful energy. Why we're seeing all this frustration, why we're seeing all this reaction here. But in the face of this change, we're being called to connect to others and to break out of it, you know? Really interesting. Let's see here. Oh, look at that, the Nine of Cups. But look, if we can stay true and stay passionate, embody that mother energy, be in that Empress power. The Empress leads us to the Nine of Cups, right? Happiness, happiness. Such powerful, loving connection here. We're seeing the threes come to the heights of their power. The nine implies that energy of of infinity. This is us manifesting love and then it like paying it forward in loving flow, right? It's expanding upon itself. Our good deeds inspire good deeds and inspire good deeds, right? This is really, really beautiful, powerful energy. And look what we're seeing. When we can really embrace that mother energy and connect, we can break out of the eights and come into the nine, right? Look, with that power of true loving harmony, of striving to connect, of being true to our will, of rejecting all that fear and facing the change, we transform that eight into the nine. We come into true happiness. We really break out of that indolence energy. No longer are we fearful, but we are coming into loving full. Wow, that's wonderful. And look at that. Neath 14, art, right? This is temperance, art. And this is the energy that calls us to truly manifest our will, to project ourselves out into the future, to embody the power of the far shooters, Hecate, Artemis, Apollo, right? Hermes, to really project our will and to fire that arrow and to see it strike our target in the distant future, right? This is really creative, empowered energy, the consummation of the lover's card, the power of solve a coagula, creating something greater than the self. right? We take all of that loving community and we use it in that profound creative work, right? And how do we break free of the fear? By following our passions and being in that true creative mode, right? How do we adapt and overcome the earth? By creating a beautiful thing out of all of that change, right? Really, really beautiful stuff. Oh, and look at that. We got Nuit, the star. Beautiful, right? The star. This is the power of Aquarius. And the star card calls you to wish upon the star, to really empower yourself in the dream and the vision, to recognize the stars as the ancestors, and that we are forged in the stars, that we are nothing but star dust. And that even though it takes a billion years and long long after most of the stars have died, that light still hits us. It still crosses that grand abyss and comes down to us, right? There's a deep, passionate connection here. And the stars call you to recognize that every thought, every wish, every idea has an empowered action upon the universe, right? And if you cry out in loving adoration, if you connect to the divine, if you wish upon the star, you can manifest your dream. Wow, right. And it's that wishing that connects us to the mother, that overcomes the change and brings us to abundance, that breaks free of fear, right? That leads us to true empowered creation and happiness. Wow, guys, right? The key is embodying the Empress energy, and we get there through that profound magic of the wish, through that profound creation of art. All of these cards are so reciprocal, right? Flowing into each other. Wow, that's beautiful. And what does this energy of the Empress do, right? It breaks free of the fear, it overcomes the change, and it manifests the nine happiness by wishing upon the stars and creating profound art. Wow, that's the message. That's the message. How beautiful is that one? Love it. All right. Amazing. Thank you so much, Oliver St. John in the Egyptian Tarot of the Lima. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we're going to go to our first donation of the evening. Thank you so much, my dear friend Gandhi, for the loving support. Really, really appreciate it. And let's pull you a couple cards. And we will go to the Thoth Tarot by Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. And let us invoke Apollo and the Muses. Oh, excuse me. And ask them to shine their light upon us, to guide us throughout our days, and to help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. So, Apollo and the Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message for Gandhi? Let's see. All right, Gandhi, your center card is the lover. The lover card, right? This is profound. The alchemical wedding, right? This is the energy that calls you to see yourself reflected in the other, to engage in that true empowered process of self refinement, to become the true embodied androgyne, to create true empowered art, that which is greater than yourself. This is the middle path, right? Bacchus in adoration of Venus. And this is really powerful stuff, but it requires that commitment and the willing shedding of the ego to see oneself destroyed to become the other, right? Profound energy here. And look at that. Wow, wow, wow. The 10 of Wands, right? This is coming to a profound realization, coming to a profound acceptance. The 10 of Wands is the breaking of the chains of Saturn, right? No longer are we bound by false expectation, by false ideas, whether they're ideas that we created or ideas that have been placed upon us. But we are seeing the falsehood. We understanding that that's not how things are. And you're coming back to the root. And the root is the lover's path, right? It is the middle way. We may lose sight or we may get distracted, but this is the way. Let's see. Yeah, indeed. Indeed, right? The five, the 5 of Wands that struggle to really come into self recognition, right? You're dancing along the path of victory. The Five of Wands is strife, right? And there's always, with this strife energy, not just that energy of striving to come into harmony, but there's this deep resentment and there's this deep recognition that you're not enacting your will. You're not in full conversation, not at the moment. And that is a deep frustration. That's a deep struggle, right? And there's a frustration and an anger here. But but that frustration is related, it's related to this, right? It's related to this. When we see this, Gandhi, you gotta, what are your chains? What, remember, this is the reason why the one of the one of the many, right, Delphic maxims is to swear no oaths. I know it's a bit oxymoronic, and we've talked about this at length because there are plenty of other times they tell you to do such a thing. But when you are empowered in an idea, you are bound in chains to it. And there's something here. There's something here that is leading to frustration. And when those chains are broken, you'll come back into this energy, right? Staying on that path of the lovers will bring you into that profound harmony. But you need to figure out what is the false anger? What's leading to that frustration? What is the frustration about? Why aren't you in flow? We know that, okay, you're not in flow, and we know that it has to do with a false image, right? A false expectation. And you need to come back into the lover's energy, right? The other side of the lovers is, right, you gotta destroy yourself and become the other. And recognize that you were the other all along. Right? This is a true shedding of ego moment here. Really interesting energy, Gandhi. Sit with the self. Really contemplate this. And remember, don't bind yourself to things. This is heavy, you know. This is heavy if the Ten of Wands is here. And there needs to be a real accounting. What is this chain that must be broken? All right. That's the message. That's the message. Peace and love, Gandhi. You are on the right path. You know, you're just in this intense moment here. All right. All the love in the world, my dear friend. All the love in the world. Okay. And once again, if anyone would like me to pull them a couple cards, please send me a super chat, a super thanks, or sign up for a YouTube membership. All right. And let's now do another Saturn Square community reading. And this is a 9-card community reading. And remember, trust your intuition. Take what resonates, discard what doesn't. All right. And we invoke Apollo and the Muses and ask them to shine their light upon us, to guide us throughout our days, and to help us to realize the beauty of our dreams. So, Apollo and the Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message from Eiffel Cocoon and the tarot as color? Okay, let's take a look here. Muses inspire. Judgment, the spirit of the primal fire. Oof. Lovely, right? The penultimate moment before completion of the cycle, right? This is the goddess Estrella sending herself ablaze and rising to the stars, right? Wild energy, wild energy, passing through the gates of judgment, going through that process of true empowered realization, becoming the ion, right? Wow. And when we see this energy, it's calling us to that primal fire, to pass through that judgment, to shed our ego, to take responsibility and to come into true surrender. What's this about? Oh, and look, the Princess of Wands. We're seeing the beginning and the ending, right? Interesting stuff. The Princess of Wands is such fiery, passionate energy, right? She is the divine child, power, potential, destiny, and motion, the one who sits upon the throne of Malkuth and brings the ace to fruition. She has all that true empowered magic and opportunity. And here she is the earth of fire, the princess of wands. And this is all about coming to upset the old growth. She wants to bring that new inspired energy to get rid of what no longer serves and to allow new life and new generation to take root. But this energy must cultivate itself in the earth. And we're seeing her see that ultimate realization. That's her goal. That's the strive. That's where she's being called. Wow. The Hierophant. The Hierophant. Oh, the Hierophant is wild energy, the magus of the eternal, right? The Hierophant is Venus in Taurus. Venus in Taurus. This is the energy that draws down the stars, the moon, that great mother force, and plants the seed in the earth that leads to true empowered wisdom and cultivation, right? The five, also that Venusian power, that energy that strives to move beyond the four elements and to reach up into the heights, right? Really wild energy here with the Taurus and Venus, with the Hierophant, the one who comes to cultivate and build a foundation, to empower themselves in that connection. And look, we're seeing that princess is going to have to learn to come into empowered wisdom in order to face the judgment, in order to come into the heights of realization that she seeks. Because that's what this energy that's what this energy ultimately is. It's the final death. It is nirvana, the blowing out of the candle. It's not just that spark, it's the extinguishing of the spark. Really wild energy, right? Let's see. The Seven of Discs, the Lord of Success Unfulfilled. The Lord of Success Unfulfilled, right? The Seven of Discs, failure, the struggle to build in the earth, to really maintain, right? We find ourselves unable to stay in that balance of the six. And this can come from many different reasons. Often with the seven, it can signify that we are overwhelmed, too much work, too many things to juggle. It could also signify that we are not trying hard enough. We are not in that energy where we're maintaining. We've become wasteful and complacent. But either way, this energy of the seven needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, it will fester and the tower, the thing that we have built, will fall. So there's this need for refinement here and for focus, right? To really come to this plateau, to really empower ourselves in that image of the Hierophant. We're really going to have to overcome the failure through hard work. Interesting. We have the spirit of the Aether, the Fool. We have two primal elementals now, right? We have the air and the fire. That's kind of beautiful. Two primal elementals. Now we just need, right, the hangman and we'll have the water. But this is beautiful. This is beautiful. The fool is Bacchus, Dionysus, the force that calls us to take that leap, to pursue our desires, to be in that profound energy, right, of striving and connecting. And look, that fool calls us to pass through the gates of judgment, to struggle through the failures, right? Wow, wow, wow. In the face of this failing energy, we are called in this moment to just leap and try anyway, to push ourselves. Wow. The Empress, the daughter of the mighty ones. Beautiful, beautiful. The Empress is such a wonderful card, right? The three. This is Aphrodite Pandemos, the divine feminine who gives birth to all creation, who manifests the infinite diversity, and who makes love to all creation, right? She is that true empowered artist, the most creative figure, that true nurturing mother. Wow. Three and the five, really wild energy to come here to face in that judgment, right? And the three energy, that's what the fool is chasing after. We're struggling to build and connect to that great mother. We're struggling to build for that empowered feminine empress, right? To really cultivate in the earth. Wow, 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 wow. This is interesting. Let's see where we're going. And we got the three of swords, the three of swords, the Lord of sorrow, the Lord of sorrow. Right? Three of Swords, this is painful energy, misunderstanding and miscommunication, right? Look, one of the things that's crowning our whole reading, we're seeing this princess struggling to come into understanding, struggling to recognize and to face that energy, to shed her ego, to really empower herself, you know? And the Three of Swords, right? This is painful, but it's also beautiful because we have that great mother energy, the three. We have the mother energy here, we have the mother energy here. And the three, right? This three energy calls us into harmony, right? So there is this miscommunication and struggle, but we're not sitting in this energy. We're struggling to come into empowered communication. We're trying to understand the other. We have that willed action here, which is beautiful. So this is what we're seeing, the child trying to come into connection with the mother, and the muse is telling us to take a leap after her. Wow. The King of Cups, interesting energy. The King of Cups, the Lord of the waves and the waters, the King of the hosts of the sea. And the King of Cups is the fire of water, the mature masculine who's out to pursue love and connection, right? Who's really empowered in that energy of building community, who's inspired to share their love with the people around them, right? And these kings are always most fulfilled when they're connected to the princess because they seek to uplift and to empower them, right? In spite of the frustration in communication, miscommunication, we're seeing that king showing up mature for her and trying to uplift her, trying to help her become and connect to that empress. Wow. Yeah, and the Eight of Wands, look at this. The Eight of Wands, the Lord of Swiftness, power of Hermes. The Eight of Wands is that energy that comes to offer us a lifeline, to inspire us into new action, into new desires. And this energy is leading us to that judgment. It's leading us to this empowered connection, this true wisdom that we seek. We just have to do, we just have to have the audacity to take that leap, to chase after that empress, right? The king is chasing after the empress, and the princess is becoming the hierophant, right? And all of this is coming from this empowered energy of the Eight of Wands, an opportunity. But you have to be able to see it and recognize it. Look at the universe with the eyes and ears of the magus, right? Be empowered in that potentiality, to trust one's intuition, to take the leap, right? When you recognize it, something that can truly be potentially, magical, that can lead to true growth and change, you got to just leap after it, even though it could lead to this profound transformation. You're supposed to transform, right? You're supposed to pass through this fire. That's what leads you to that great mother. Wild energy, this one. So interesting. Boy. Thank you so much, Aito Cocoon, and the tarot as color. All right, guys, it's been a really long, hectic day for me. So I think I'm going to call it here. I'm just really feeling it. But I so appreciate you guys, and I'm so glad that I did do even a short reading for you all. So much love to everyone. I really appreciate seeing you all. Big shout out to Gandhi for the donation. And I hope I will see you all bright and early for our morning adoration to the muses. Oh, before I take off, I got a donation here from Mother Panda. Beautiful. Thank you, Mother Panda, for your donation. And I can pull you a couple cards before we end. Glad I caught you. Okay. We will go once again to the Thoth Tarot. And let's pull a couple cards for Mother Panda. All right. So, following the muses, shine your light upon Mother Panda. Guide her throughout her day and help her to realize the beauty of her dreams. So, Apollo and the Muses, what is the empowering and inspiring message for Mother Panda? All right, let's take a look. We got the Prince of Wands, the Prince of Wands in your center. Okay, so when we see this energy, this could either be how you're showing up or it could be someone in your life, right? You got to be honest about it and think on this. So the Prince is the air of fire, the reckless rebel youth. This is the youth that comes to inspire change and action. And because they're not grounded to the earth or connected to others, they are reckless. They're willing and able and capable of doing just about anything to be seen, to be heard, to inspire, right? All they care about is their grand vision and their grand ideas. So this is reckless, intense energy. passionate and beautiful, but not grounded and capable of doing things that other people wouldn't because they don't have that connection. Wow. And look at that. We're seeing that prince being called to the Hierophant. Now, the Hierophant is interesting. This is the Venus and Taurus, the five, right? The magic of Hera, of Hathor, the energy that calls us to build the foundation, to build the temple and the church, and to develop true empowered wisdom, to come into true understanding, to cultivate the earth, and to really create wisdom born of the earth, to manifest true culture, you know? So this is really heavy, intense energy. I'm seeing this youth going to school. So this could be one of your kids, maybe facing this kind of school, or yourself wanting to go to get higher learning. But we're seeing that passionate, reckless youth pursue this empowered connection, is trying to come into true wisdom, trying to ground themselves in the earth, right? And look at that. The star card. Wow. So what I'm seeing here is that this prince is really trying to manifest this. They want to create community. That's their ideal. That's what they're passionate and reckless about, which is kind of interesting because they're passionate and reckless about something that's not reckless, that you can't really be reckless about, which is good, honestly, because this creative character, then they can take the time and cultivate the earth because that's what it's going to take. You know, there's no cheating with the Hierophant energy. The Hierophant has to draw down the moon to the earth, has to write that empowered story that manifests culture, right? This is real heavy, 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 heavy work, right? The energy that builds foundations, you know? And to really empower yourself in this energy, you're going to have to do the work of the Hierophant. You're going to have to become the Hierophant. And what does the Hierophant do? They wish upon the star. They take that profound inspiration, those ideas, that magic, and they cultivate it under the earth. They make it tangible and they make it real, right? And this is what you have to do. Connect to your ancestors. Go out under the stars and cry out in loving adoration. Manifest your will with that true empowered desperation, right? Really cry and strive to connect. Every Hierophant is a mystic, and every Hierophant first had to cry out in madness before they gained that empowered responsibility to build, you know? But this is where I'm seeing that youth is trying to manifest true community and true wisdom to build the temple, right? But to do that, you're going to have to become the Hierophant. And to become the Hierophant, you have to empower yourself in the magic of the ancestors. Wow. That's the message. I hope that resonates. All right. All the love in the world to you, Mother Panda, and thank you so much for your support. Go out under the stars and empower yourself in your dreams. Take all of this passionate energy and throw it into that wish, right? And then cultivate the earth. Take that inspired knowledge that you gain from the stars and make it real. That's the message. Thank you. Okay. And so with that, we are going to call it an evening. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All the love in the world to you all. Okay. And we're going to do one sword taste, and then we'll say our prayers and do our music. So let's see. What's our sword taste today? We're going to go to the Oresteia by Aeschylus. Muses, what is the message from Aeschylus? Inspire. Apollo. He is my suppliant, and I will stand by him and save him if I can. Look at this. Hail Apollo. Hail Apollo. What a beautiful line. Apollo recognizes his suppliants and he blesses them and protects them. Hail Apollo. Rise with the sun and cry out in his glory. How beautiful. How beautiful. Absolutely love it. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. Truly means the world. And I hope I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. And let us now end with a prayer. We cry out in loving adoration to the great mother, the twins, and the muses, the one, duality, and generation. And we ask the muses to sing in us the songs of inspiration, to guide us in our daily wanderings, and to teach us to listen and perceive with reasoned clarity. Thank you all. Peace and love. And let us end our rites and blow out our candles. Hail Hestia.